everybody, welcome to Lex Macula Presents in the Spotlight. We've often heard that everyone has a story to tell. And this series is our attempt to find those very stories in the legal profession. We hope to look beyond firms, job titles, colleges, etc. and find what inspires and motivates our favorite lawyers. So come join us and enjoy this episode of In the Spotlight.
Previously, you've talked about how you have a great interest towards teaching and academia, and you had the opportunity to design the Supreme Court practice case for LawSeco. And you've essentially, not anymore, but over the past few months, you've had the opportunity to teach a lot of students, professionals, albeit online. So how has that experience been in designing the course, taking online classes?
And it was amazing, right? Because before pandemic, you wouldn't have realized these things can happen, right? But these people were, of course, doing it even before that. But my idea of teaching would have been to be in direct interaction, to have direct interaction with students in a physical space. But what happened during the pandemic was I was doing a lot of webinars and stuff. So I kind of got used to interacting with the camera. And students and professionals, when they do these courses, they keep the video off. Okay, so even when you ask
I think that's something we relate to, because in our online classes, our teachers keep asking, please open your cameras. And
yeah,
we refuse to.
At the time, what happened was I would get that space. So one thing my mother would always say, "Tum teacher kabhi mat banna." Why? Because even if it's dark and I'm talking to her, like before going to sleep, I would talk to her, and if she was thinking, if she would start thinking of something else, I would get it. I would like, you're thinking of something else now, I won't talk. So that just happens. So even in online classes, I get, if people are not with me, they are not getting me, I would get even a bit of clarity, right? So it was quite interesting because I was working with a very diverse kind of class. We had more professionals, of course, because it was Supreme Court practice. Many students would think it's not fit for them, but I was very sure that I want to keep it. I enjoy diversity. I want to keep it diverse because each one of you will learn from the other. You all will have a psychological. You will think the other person has a psychological advantage over you, but it's not that. I explained in the first class that students will think professionals have a psychological advantage and professionals will think students will, but it's not like that, etc., etc. And trust me, students loved it. I enjoyed it. I definitely enjoy teaching, and this is something that's been since the time I've started litigating. This has been something on my mind, on bridging the gap between theory and practice, on how I can contribute to this. At that time, it was a different reason for I wanted to teach for a different reason, but now I want to teach because I know I. And then the students also found that I have that not many people will have that ability to train. That I thought I was doing the right thing then by choosing to teach. I really enjoyed it. And in fact, it was Guru Purnima a few days back, and students messaged me, my ex-students, like I stopped teaching way back. And these are students, I'm calling them students, but they are professionals with like 15 years of experience, and they've like worked on such amazing cases. And they messaging me and saying that either somebody saying they miss me or they want me to do something with them as well, and they're willing to. I mean, it's amazing how much respect I got from people, and this is something that has been lifelong, and people who are even so. I'm getting emotional. These things make me. I mean, this is something. Teaching is something because I've been wanting to teach for such a long time, and for one reason or the other, even when I chose litigation over teaching, it was also because my muscles were giving me trouble, and I found it difficult to speak. So even when I was teaching at NLU, I realized if I have to speak for 2 hours every day, it will get difficult for me. So, I have not given up yet. I keep trying, and it's amazing that students enjoy it, and they think.
Well, I'm sure, ma'am, you seem to be very patient for like attending to us. Like we can make out that you're very patient, and teaching takes a lot of patience.
I don't know about that, but definitely this is something because I really want people to grow, right? And I'm very sure if you're here, I take you here, right? And how do I do that then? And this is what drives me.
So you have an innate desire to see and nurture people.
Oh, yeah, I just said this to somebody that, there's somebody else who's a great mentor, and he said to someone that, we have perhaps very good maternal instincts, and therefore we do. I don't know why, but there's this amazing kind of passion to train even the interns, and with the associates, this is something I'm trying that I train them to.
All right. Since you're interested in teaching, I'm sure you've spoken at a lot of conferences, webinars, stuff like that. So, but our personal favorite has been law and storytelling.
Yeah.
So, we wanted to know how you see the intersectionality of law.
Okay. So let me tell you how that webinar happened.
Yeah, please.
Right. So I have never done a webinar. Now I had thought there is a connection between law and storytelling, etc. But I had not thought of it as a webinar topic. So what happened was, so I generally have this habit of typing a lot, okay? And I don't just type, these are personal stuff I share with people. And these are just randomly whatever comes my way. So when I was designing this course, I would have shared some personal story with Abdullah. I shared it on WhatsApp, and he said, "You have this amazing way of telling stories. How do you use it in a profession?" He said, "Of course I do." And then I started thinking, "How do I use it?" And I was reminded of a case where I had. So the case happened later on where I got to use it very clearly. Otherwise, also I used to use, and I've seen lawyers using it. So then he suggested let's do on this topic. But of course, storytelling, the interest in storytelling as an art form came when I started litigating, and there were evenings when, I mean, you know how stressful it can be. So maybe once in a month, I would get this opportunity to attend some event, and it would be storytelling events sometimes. And there was this amazing storyteller, Archit. He would have been of my age, but he passed away. So it was in a tragic drowning accident, and after he passed away, then I thought, how do I take his art forward, take his work forward, because he didn't just tell stories, right? He didn't just tell stories, he influenced so many people's lives, which was amazing. Like, how can you use your voice? How can you use the way you speak? How can you use what you are saying? And the kind of effort he used to put in, the kind of hours he used to put in to weave those stories was commendable, and you don't realize it when you hear it, but it has an impact on you, and therefore you may sense that, and some people are really gifted perhaps. So he was one of them, and that's when I had interest in storytelling as an art, and then I realized, okay, wow, this is also a skill you can use in the profession. I've been using it. So I'll tell you an example. This was I told you about my experience of being shifted from science stream to humanities. So now what happened, there was this case of students in JNU who were applying to JNU who had a disability, and you need to give them 5% reservation. Now, this 5% reservation was being calculated school-wise and center-wise, just like they calculate for SC/ST, for etc. So you won't find any problem with it. Nobody there. But there is a problem. Now, to make the judges understand, this is before the Chief Justice of Delhi High Court to make the judges understand what was wrong with them. Took such a long time. Each time I would explain, they would again go back. What's wrong? It's right. You calculate it's coming to 5%. So then I used my personal story. So one day I was like, let me begin with my personal story, because each time they don't get it, then it's like, now if I bring my story, it will seem, it was a circle. So then I thought I'd start with my story. And trust me, it was so effective. I didn't have to argue after that. I just explained how I was shifted, and then how my autonomy was compromised, how my parents said me first do this, and then even when I went to do my LLM, people asked me, what have you come here to prove? Right? So while everyone went there to study for a person with disability, so these are the kinds of barriers you face with other people can't see, right? So when you have faced those barriers and still you've reached a point, so there are students with disabilities who cannot study science. So the science stream center school seats go wasted while other students are applying for some center and they are not getting seats. So this is where my story came to the rescue, and they really got it. They got it so well that I didn't have to argue after that. The judge argued. Whereas it was the other way around before, the judge was arguing for the others. Right? I'm sorry to use that language, but that's what was happening, and I just couldn't explain them. And then it was like it went on a first gear, and it was covered in all newspapers everywhere that this can't be done. Right?
Your story really stayed with them, and I think that's the biggest part of when you're arguing, you tell a story.
Right, and then it's sometimes stories can have different kind of effect, right? Sometimes you need to use personal anecdotes when it's getting boring. So you need to have a few anecdotes in your mind, and then you need to use it at the right time. So all that involves some sort of craft, and this is what I want to train lawyers in, right? Because I realize many people have amazing observation skill, but they don't want to pass it on to anybody else. They want to keep it to themselves. While there are people who don't have observation skills, even if they want to pass it on, they can't. So therefore, somebody who has observed, who has been with people like Mr. Khurshid and has had the advantage of learning from their observations as well. So I really feel that's why I'm more equipped, and that's why I think people have considered me more equipped to train them.
We've already mentioned the pandemic during the course of this conversation. How could we not? But especially during the second wave in Delhi, it was chaos, and actually even that word doesn't seem enough. But it really brought out the humanitarian side in a lot of people. People who prior to the pandemic were very professionally focused, and just I shouldn't say self-centered, but very self. If it doesn't have to deal with them, they don't care. But a lot of humanitarian. I suppose, yeah. But a lot of these humanitarian missions came up.
Right.
Do you have any such experience that either?
Right, so first let me tell you something that happened during the pandemic itself. So I told you my parents needed oxygen. So I went through all sorts of experiences, right? So I had volunteers who were complete strangers who were staying awake all night trying to find me hospital beds and oxygen cylinders. I had people asking me to have sex in lieu of oxygen cylinders. I had somebody who kept flirting on the phone for I don't know how long. He kept saying he's coming with an oxygen cylinder and he never came, right? And so there was a time when I was losing trust, but it were other people, like I told you, Mr. Farasat. The role he played was like amazing. He helped me so much. My mother is alive because of Shahram, because of Apur, because of Mr. Khurshid. So it's all three of them with whom I have worked. They played a very, very important role in saving their lives. But again, you can't say who can help you win and who will come for your support when. but it's just that it comes, right? When it has to come, it comes. When it doesn't have to come, it does. And I'm sure there are people who didn't have that support, and I consider myself very fortunate that I had it. But sometimes I feel it's not got to do with people, because there are many good people on this earth, but not everyone can be good to you at all times. Of course, with me and with other people who deal with something of this sort, it gets a little different, because somehow I realized people with disabilities knew how to care for. Even during this time, they were reaching out to me. Oh, this must be so hard for you. You want someone to speak, etc. Whereas friends won't realize that, right? So somewhere there was such a huge gap. Uh, but having said that, if you ask me about some other experience, it was. Uh, it was when I had just started litigation, and since I have a neurological disorder, of course, one thing that stays in my mind, it used to at some point, it did made me a bit anxious. It would be that what will happen if I can't walk, if I can't do my own stuff? Will I have somebody to help me to even talk, right? To have people who are even talking amongst themselves, just that. Would I have? Because that's the first thing that vanishes from your life when you're dealing with something of this sort. Because people think you need their support, and you're the one who needs their support, and you won't be able to support them, and therefore they run away from you. So, but there are exceptions, and again, you always find right people, right time. I also believe in karma. I believe since I do so much, I get as well. But yes, I don't do it with that spirit. I do because I know what it feels like when someone doesn't do it for you. Yeah, so I have seen all sorts of days. I have seen days when I'm starved, and I've called people, and these are all human rights people who didn't come, who said, you know what, you call your family. My family is in India. I am starving in the UK. The next door neighbor doesn't come. So that's when you realize that these are the things when you need to stop doing whatever you're doing, and you need to go and do for people. Otherwise, it's a waste of your own life. The other experience was when something that stands apart for me was when one of my batchmates from AIMU, he was diagnosed with brain tumor. This is in 2014 or 15, and this is when I just started practicing. And so I just got a message at night saying that this much lag is needed within these many hours. I was like, you know what? He came from a very, very humble background. In AMU, we had that experience of being with people, with diverse kind of people, right? So we had people from upper middle class. We had IAS officers' daughters studying with me. We had people with such humble background that if they didn't get a scholarship, they can't study even in AMU. So we had seen all sorts of, and we just knew how to be with them. That was the best thing about that, because you learn it early in your life. You can't learn it later. If you haven't learned it early, it doesn't come to you. You try to be nice to people, but you really can't be with people of all sorts. So that's where, and that was in the place where we didn't care, right? Whatever we would be doing, we would just leave and run, because for the simple reason, we were not that competitive, if you really want to put that word to it. And when I say competitive, what is being competitive these days? Just being competitive is I think it's a very, very shallow definition of being competitive. But if you're studying, then being competitive is getting good grades, or doing something that will be good for your profession. Now that's such a narrow-minded thinking, because life is much more than that. And you will need people. You do need people, and what if they think the same and you need them? So that's one thing that was there in AMU, and it's still there in Alex. That they believe everything will come to you. wherever they are. Yes, wherever they are. I had that sense even, when I was in the UK, I just knew if I can call somebody, I can call somebody at any time, even if it was 3 a.m. in India, I can call them. And just wanting to speak to somebody, and I had somebody to speak to. And I knew that if I tell them, they'll come. So, yes. So it's a great feeling to have. It's a great feeling to have. And that happened just because I went to an institution where people were leading a holistic life, where they were not being bombarded with pressure, or that culture of being good in a certain way was not there. So we could be good in other ways as well, and not that we're not doing good in those ways, but we're doing good in other ways now.
So how would you say, if you had to give an advice to somebody who's in the legal profession, and there's a lot of mental health issues in general also, and now the pandemic has only added to the problem. So what would you want to, how would you mitigate that? Legal profession and the mental health aspect of it, because yes,
that problem starts right from your law school, where you you're real you're that herd mentality where you have to do it you have to reach somewhere. Now that pressure has to go, and that has to go right at law school, otherwise you will develop mental health issues right there. And the kind of life that people have in law school these days, I mean, wherever I went, I realized people are so much into themselves because they want to be somewhere. And even if they're helping somebody, they're helping because that person can help them reach somewhere. It's so, I mean, these are all these networking skills I hear about. I get I feel very suffocating, right? I think that's the reason for so much of mental health issues these days. I think we really need to understand that we're human beings and we enjoy connecting with each other just for the sake of connecting. And there should always be time to just be us, right? It's good chasing your dreams, but that's because it gives you good feeling. It gives you a good feeling. It's those dreams are otherwise nothing. Those are just your imagination. You've imagined it. You want to chase them because it gives you a good feeling. That's it. So if other things also give good feeling, please go for them. Everyone should go for them. A culture should be created where you enjoy other things that life gives you as well. Yeah, I think that's one of the things that should start. Otherwise, litigation is very difficult because in either case it's stressful. When a client comes to you with a whole set of problems, it can be stressful for you. When you have to meet deadlines and the client comes to you at the last moment, or you have so many cases in a single day, it can be stressful when you have to stay awake all night. There are things you can't help. Right? Because it's not a very professional thing to do, to refuse. Again, you don't know when the case will be listed, and so happens every case it's listed on the same day, right? So you can't help much. In that scenario, what helps is your ability to keep yourself stress-free, your ability to see things the way they are, and that it does not create stress in your system. It does not create a certain kind of pressure on you because you've already learned how to manage stress in your college life in a certain way. It of course came to me, and therefore I see it's a life skill to be able to see things differently, to be able to change your priorities. And I'll ask you all to change your priorities and to balance things. You talk about work-life balance. Work is a part of life. So why call it a work-life balance? Just live your life.
I think that's a very quotable quote. You should print it on a shirt.
What? Live your life. You want to, and that was the perfect part about Salman's chamber. He just allowed us to live our life. He would be happy if I was going for a vacation. He would be happy. He would be more happy. He would be happier than I was. Oh wow, you're going there as if he was living it himself. That's how it should be.
That honestly sounds great, and it sounds like such an extraordinary thing, even though it shouldn't be. It's just, it should be that everyone should have the work-life balance, I suppose.
It should be the order of the day, but it's not. There's work, there's life. And there's nothing in between.
No, you should be like in my previous office. I used to have paint. I used to have all sorts of stuff in my office. So when I would need so I would call it a creative break, right? So litigation involves a lot of creativity, right? You need to be able to think out of box, etc. So you need to have that kind of space, right? And so you can do stuff, and it will really help you in your profession. Even if you are competitive, it's going to competitive. It's going to help you.
So, ma'am, now that you've here at a very beautiful part of your life, and you're much mature now from what you were back when you were graduated 10 years ago.
Okay, my friends say that I'm becoming more immature. I was very mature when I was in college.
I think one should say kids forever, like 18 forever.
18 is too old. 18 is too old.
And I want to live my life the way it is. I'm getting to, right? At that end, I mean, I too had my own, I led a very disciplined kind of life when I was in college. So that's what they saw, and they thought, oh wow, Sanchita is so mature. But that was kind of a compulsion at that time, because I had to deal with my symptoms along with it. But right now I can be myself and I can do stuff. So I enjoy doing that.
I think this is a pretty good note to conclude on. Our last question to you would be that now that you've graduated and it's been 10 years in the profession, what would you tell your graduating self, in hindsight, in the benefit of hindsight? And I'm sure that will be very beneficial to all of our viewers who are graduating either during the pandemic or about to, or just have graduated last year.
So I'll either say nothing. I don't want to communicate to them because, or I'll say well done, right? Because I sincerely believe, not because I did everything right, but because I sincerely believe you should have no regrets. Yeah. You just made the best use of time you had. You just have to give yourself that benefit of doubt that you're doing the best you can under the given circumstances. You have done it. And when you, as Maya Angelou's quote says, that you do what you know, and then when you know better, you do better. So there's no harm in being that and not beating yourself up. And so I never had regrets. I think since I was class 7, I made it a point, and I chose that for myself, that I will never have regrets in life. And that's why whatever happens, and even if I feel, oh, I should have done it the other way, and I thought, okay, fine, at that time I thought. And that's why I spend time in thinking objectively, and I'm very conscious that I'm thinking and making a decision right now. Tomorrow I may think that, okay, I made a wrong decision, but at that time I did think and make that decision. It was right for me when I thought about it. So it was the right decision.
I think that's a perfect note to end on.
Yes, this has been really riveting for us. And I'm sure for our viewers as well, because listening to your journey, it has allowed us to understand that there's a more humanized side, as opposed to, a stoic and a rigid imagery which people associate with a lawyer.
Yeah, don't become those litigating counsels who walk like this. I mean, like a straight jacket. No, there's no one way of doing things.
That's personally what we believe too. So as youth sitting here, I think it's enabled us to have a little peep into what the next 10 years of our life should be like, rather, I would say, as compared to the...
I think could be would be the right word. It shouldn't be anyway.
I think personally it should be, in the sense that you're an unconventional lawyer of sorts. You've had your struggles, you've had your trials, and you've managed to stay humble through it. So this is how I think we all should be. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for having us and letting us be here and be a part of your journey. Thank you, viewers, for being there with us.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.